Investment advisory services offered through Independent Solutions Wealth Management and Blackridge Asset Management, LLC. Peak Broker Services, LLC is not an affiliate of Independent Solutions or Financial Guys, LLC.
You're listening to The Financial Guys.
We're $23 trillion in debt, honey. We don't have an extra surplus of money.
Newsflash, guys. Stop attacking businesses, because when all the businesses are gone, nobody's going to pay your salary anymore. You get that?
If the goal is to create a loser mentality, you're winning.
I'm going to build a big, beautiful wall with a big, beautiful door. Well, guess what? We have a big, beautiful door, all right. It's the wide open southern border, right?
Yeah.
Here's Glenn Wiggle and Mike Lomas.
All right, welcome back, everybody. You've got Glenn Wiggle and Mike Hayflick in for Mike Lomas right now. Mike will be joining us, Lomas, in just a few minutes here. We're going to do a quick segment with Mike Hayflick. This is the podcast where money meets politics, and we're going to talk about some money to start. We often talk politics to start, and we'll get to the politics at the end of today's show. If you want to see all the different social media things that we do, if you want to find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and watch this on YouTube, you can go to our website at thefinancialguys.com to find all of those links. If you happen to be watching this on YouTube as opposed to listening to it as a podcast, thank you very much for tuning into our YouTube channel. And if you do us a huge favor, hit that like button below and give us a thumbs up. We'd really do appreciate it. And if you want to be notified as all these new podcasts come out, please click the subscribe button and you'll be notified each and every Wednesday. Usually these podcasts come out every Wednesday, not always, but we're pretty consistent with that. Today we're going to talk with Mike Hayflick, who is certified in Social Security claiming strategies. We're going to start with some money today, and something that we don't talk probably enough about, and that is how to manage the distribution of wealth. I think what excites most people oftentimes is talking about accumulating wealth. That's the fun stuff. In recent weeks, we've had on Paul Meeks, who is one of our chartered financial analysts on our investment committee, talking about growing wealth. We had Harvey Neiman, another portfolio manager for the Neiman family of funds, on our Florida radio show on WFTL, talking about growing wealth. But oftentimes we don't talk enough about distributing that wealth. Once you've accumulated that nest egg, how is the most efficient way, or what is the most efficient way to draw those assets so that you can maximize the money going into your pocket and minimize the money going to Uncle Sam oftentimes? And that's where having a certified Social Security claiming strategist really comes in. So Mike Hayflick has been with our firm now forever, right? It seems at least your whole entire career, really. But you have really focused on this part of the financial plan, and that is distributing the wealth in a most efficient manner, utilizing Social Security as a big part of that. So if you could talk maybe about what you do and why it's so important, Mike. Thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely, Glenn. Great to be here, by the way. The gentleman you mentioned, our investment team, they get excited about accumulation of wealth, as we all do. We like to see our numbers going up. We are always told, save, 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 put more away into your plans, whether it's state deferred comp plans, IRAs, 401ks, 403bs. We're told that throughout our careers, but very seldom do people stop and say, how much will I actually need? And then what will I do with what I've accumulated? I'd ask some of the wealth managers that you mentioned, would they rather manage wealth for growth, or would they rather manage wealth for perhaps 2 to 3 decades for their clients for income? I think most of them would say it's a lot more fun, and I think the thrill and the excitement that clients would get is definitely managing for growth. Being part of the markets, knowing that a lot of the capital that they've accumulated can continue to be in the markets, not all be in this preserve and protect kind of environment. We saw historically low interest rates, especially through the Obama 2 terms, and we still see historically low interest rates. It's really, really difficult to keep accumulating wealth or to even take income from your wealth with this really low interest rate environment. So I think the strategies of taking income are what people really need to sort of pivot to once they're getting closer and closer to retirement. And that's what I like to help people with, Glenn.
Awesome. One of the things that we talk oftentimes about, Mike, is making sure that we're trying to keep as much money in our client's pocket, right? And as the least amount in Uncle Sam's pocket. And, of course, those that listen to the podcast, the radio shows on a regular basis know that, we're very big proponents of smaller government, lower taxes, more personal responsibility, more individual freedom. And, part of that goes with the distribution planning as well, knowing where to take the assets. And then also, and I guess really more importantly with what you're doing is understanding the tax efficiency of Social Security, how to utilize that within a strategy. And the way that you approach it, I really like, and that is, trying to figure out the least amount of capital that you have to expend to meet your income needs, right? That's a big part of it. Explain to us, how you go about that analysis and the software that you use.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The Social Security optimization software that we use, literally right to the dollar, explains to people what to do with the capital that they've accumulated. Now, let me just paint this one little picture for you. Let's take a couple who, at full retirement age, let's say they each have 66 as a full retirement age. Let's say that they've got $62,000 coming to them in Social Security benefits, both very strong earnings records. They wait until full retirement to take their benefits. If they have no other income at all, no other income coming in retirement, they'll pay zero federal tax on that Social Security income. So they'll get every single dollar of the $62,000. Let's give those people, though, now $2 million. Let's say each of them accumulated $1 million in their tax-deferred accounts. So the initial, I guess, the instinctive thought when you retire is don't use your wealth, right? Preserve, protect. Try to then pass it on to your family, right? Maybe your kids, your grandkids. Well, those people, when they reach full retirement age, they take Social Security. Things are going well. They're not taking any money out of those IRAs or tax-deferred accounts. But at 70 and a half, the RMDs, required minimum distributions, basically torpedo any of the tax savings that they were getting. And people don't realize that Social Security income is taxed largely based on the other kinds of income that will come into their household. So you know those rules, Glenn, 3.65% the first year. If you do that times two people, you now have a $73,000 distribution that must come out at their age of 70 and a half, which assuming they have the same birthday. Now you add 73,000 of taxable income, 85% of their Social Security income will now be taxable. So instead of being 0% federal tax, now not only are the IRAs taxed, and you know who runs that, Glenn, you know who dictates what the tax rates are going to be, the IRS. So the IRS now dictates how much these folks have to take out of their IRAs, and they dictate the tax rates. What I would say to people, and what I do talk to people about, is an intentional use of their wealth. Intentionally use and spend down some of the capital from those kinds of tax-infested, basically income in suspension kinds of accounts, and do it on your terms. Do it when the markets are high. Do it while tax rates are historically low right now. And then perhaps we sort of salvage some of the tax efficiencies of the Social Security income that they thought they were going to have maybe tax-free for the rest of their lives. They find that it definitely is not tax-free for the rest of their lives once those RMDs come out. So there's lots of strategies to consider. Like you said, use of the capital and then tax efficiencies, not from the moment you retire, but all the way through retirement. And I always expect people are going to live 2 to 3 decades into their retirement. That's a lot of years of unpredictable IRS activity, tax rate changes, and maybe even RMD percentage changes.
Right. Yeah, all those could be a factor for sure, no doubt about it. And, again, it's, looking at where you can take income from when you retire. You've got your IRAs, right? That's where most people will take a good chunk of their income. That's going to be 100% taxable, right? So the money coming in your IRAs is taxable. Old 401ks, that's taxable. Your Roth IRAs is one of those few tax-free buckets. You can utilize life insurance or insurance type of vehicles to loan money out. Those can also be very tax efficient or even tax-free vehicles if it's done right. So, you look at all those different things, and of course you have non-qualified money. So piecing all those different things together and utilizing the software to come up with the most efficient formula as to how to draw that income out and the timing, and that's really a very important piece of it, is the timing of it, is also a very critical component that most people don't think about. But you're talking literally tens of thousands of dollars of a difference. I mean, think about this. Let's assume that a spouse has $20,000 of Social Security. Would that be a fair number to say in today's day and age?
That's almost right on the average.
Okay.
That's a little above an average, sure.
So let's double that to $40,000 of income, right? if $40,000 of income is tax-free, great. If 85% of it becomes taxed all of a sudden now you've got a pretty big tax bill, right? So if you've got, 85%, roughly 36,000-ish of your $40,000 of income is going to be taxable at a 20% bracket, there's $7,000 or $8,000 that potentially is coming out of your pocket and going to the Uncle Sam's pocket, right?
Sure.
So again, the timing of those investments and the old adage of deferring taxes as long as possible is not always right. And this is why at the Financial Guys, we are a one-stop financial shop where we have in-house accountants, we have in-house legal estate planners, so we can do the estate planning and the distribution of wealth as well. But it's important to have all those players on the same team, even if you're using your own accountant or your own CPA, making sure that we're communicating with each other and really making sure that all your professionals on your team really understand your plan and what you're trying to accomplish. Because although I grew up in an accounting family, my father and my uncle were both CPAs for 40 years, so I get the mentality. And the mentality of an accountant is always defer taxes as long as you can, right? So pay as least amount of tax in this tax year possible and push off as much of the tax burden as you possibly can. And so you'll typically hear a lot of accountants talk about deducting your IRA and not utilizing a Roth because they want the present day deduction. There's nothing wrong with looking at it that way, but it doesn't lend very well to sometimes long-term planning. And although things will change, and that's what the accountant's argument is we know what today's tax rates are. We don't know what they're going to be in the future, so it's hard to plan for that. But I think we can make some reasonable assumptions, knowing that if they touch Social Security, you're talking now where the politics meets money side, if they touch Social Security and they make it more taxable, they're probably committing political suicide, which no politician is really willing to do anymore. So
exactly.
Right. So you've got some relative certainties, I think, that you can play with. And I think making sure that we're communicating with your accountant or you're utilizing the accountants on our team, our tax professionals that we have in our office, whether it be Dana or Nancy or Dawn at our 305 Spindrift, they can consult all over the country. But they certainly understand what we're trying to accomplish as a holistic plan. And sometimes that's easier using our in-house folks as it is using your own folks. We work a lot locally with Esther Gulias, EG Tax. Esther is a human computer when it comes to tax strategies. And the nice part of why we enjoy working with her is she understands a lot of these strategies, where although she likes to minimize taxes, as all accountants do in the present year, she really does understand long-term planning, and her entire team does, and so that's a good fit as well. But that's not always the case. So if you're going to an H&R Block or a quick turnaround type of place, you may or may not have somebody who really understands what you're trying to accomplish, and sometimes that could kind of submarine the whole thing. So at the Financial Guys, again, being a one-stop financial shop, we can either bring all those folks in-house, we have those folks on site, or we're happy to quarterback the relationship. So we work with your other professionals like your accountants and your attorneys to make sure that everything is cohesive, because if the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, that doesn't work very well when it comes to an overall financial plan, right?
Absolutely not. And, I think of it like this. I mean, how long does it take to accumulate some of these accounts that we all accumulate, in retirement? In retirement accounts, and it could take 30 to 40 years. I'd also then say to people, it could be a 20 to 30, maybe 40 years of a retirement. So if you're going to use some of that tax-deferred money, like I said, in a more intentional way at certain earlier moments of your retirement, that can definitely be the better solution when you put together the 25, 30 years. I know a lot of people are very hung up on, and this is the media's fault, and it's largely the media's fault. You look online for break-even analyses of Social Security income. Right. And I can tell you the numbers. If you take at 62 versus 66, you need to live to be 78 to basically get the same amount of dollars out of the Social Security Trust Fund either way. I ask you, Glenn, is that very helpful? Is it interesting at best? I mean, that's a simple Excel spreadsheet. Right. It's simply Googling and saying break-even Social Security. It's not helpful, though, to people. It's at best interesting, but it's a break-even analysis. Most people, and I tell people this, I said, the worst-case scenario is that you do live to be 90 to 95 and you run out of wealth. You go broke. Worst case for a female is that their husband takes early, and maybe that's the highest benefit in the household, the husband dies, and then the wife is basically the widow getting a really low Social Security income for the rest of her life, and then she's living in poverty from now age 80 and on into her 80s, late 80s and 90s.
Right.
It's much more important to be thinking holistically about this and not just doing some simple break-even analysis. Unfortunately, many financial advisors, that's all they'll do for people.
Yep.
They basically are hoping that you'll die before you go broke, or they're hoping that they themselves, the advisor, retire before you go broke.
Right.
And I'm not even being facetious with that. That's the truth. So work with someone who's an income specialist when it's time to take income and to consider income from your retirement accounts. It's no longer just about accumulation, Glenn, as you said at the onset. It's about use, distribution in a tax-efficient way.
Right. It's not just about maximizing. We can all look on Google and figure out what the break-even is. It's about optimizing and understanding how the tax rates that you have to pay and what your other income sources are factor into that analysis, because the tax rates are the ultimate variable. And then, of course, we have to take into consideration things like your life expectancy, family history, stuff like that. If everyone in your family died at 68, the long game may not be your best bet. But those are things that, as more of an individual, you're not going to get that on Google by just saying, what's the break even? The break even is 77, 78 between taking it earlier and taking it at your regular time. But that doesn't, factor in, waiting, and that doesn't factor in the taxes, which to me is the biggest piece of this, right? Most of our clients they think just like us. They are conservative-minded individuals who believe in smaller government, lower taxes, and more individual freedoms, right? So, they're very, very interested in minimizing the amount that goes to the IRS. To be honest with you, everybody is, right? Whether you're on the left or the right.
No doubt.
I love how the liberals on the left, Warren Buffett and the rest of the liberal crew always talk about, well, I'm willing to pay more taxes. I'm happy to put more taxes in. And yet none of them ever actually write an extra check to the IRS. And what is a Warren Buffett does? Well, he comes to Buffalo, New York, and he says, I got to have tax cuts and tax incentives for me to bring Geico here, or the math just doesn't work. Well, wait a minute. I thought you were the bigger government proponent. I thought you wanted to pay more taxes. The reality of it is that whether you're on the left or the right, nobody wants to pay more taxes, right?
No.
Everybody inherently wants to keep more money in their pocket and and their family's pocket, right? That's the culture and the kind of the heritage that is America, right? We want to do better for our families and for the next generation. And so that's where, again, keeping more money in your own pocket versus giving it to the IRS makes a lot more sense. So, Mike Hayflick, thank you so much for joining us. Again, you're a certified Social Security claiming strategist. All the folks on our team, folks, are certified in their respective fields, whether it be certified financial planners, chartered financial analysts. We've got certified divorce financial analysts. We've got obviously chartered a Social Security claiming strategist, and much, much more. A certified AHIP certified Medicare specialist, and much more. So if you need somebody, if you want any help, go to our website at thefinancialguys.com, and you can email us to that website. You'll find our phone number there. You can call us at the office again. 833-FIN-GUYS is the 800 number. So Mike Hayflick, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. Really do appreciate it.
My pleasure.
All right, coming up next, we have one more segment, folks. You're not going to want to turn the dial. Mike Lomas is going to be joining us. We're going to talk some politics now for the last half of the podcast. This is our therapy, by the way. So our radio shows, our podcasts, this is what we do so that we can actually not have to enter counseling and waste time doing that. So this is much more enjoyable and certainly is therapy for us to kind of vent on some of the things. So we're going to be talking impeachment. We've got some sound clips for you. We've got a bunch to talk about, a little bit of Como as well. And the banana heist down in the art festival of South Florida. You're not going to want to miss that. I don't know what's going on in the world today, but when a banana taped to a wall becomes art, I don't even know what to say anymore. So we'll talk about that and much more when we come back. So don't turn the dial. Or actually, it's not really a dial, is it? It's a podcast. So just stay where you are. We'll be right back. All Alrighty, welcome back, everybody. You've got the Financial Guys, Glenn Wiggle and Mike Lomas here on the Financial Guys podcast. Thank you for watching or listening, depending on how you're enjoying the podcast today. We certainly appreciate it. I've got Mike Lomas now with us here. We're going to talk some politics for the last part of the show. If you want to hear again the beginning part of the show, obviously you know how to go back and do that. Just rewatch the video, right? Would make sense, or rewind the podcast. If you would people be tuning in the middle of the show? Not really, right? So it's not radio where they're tuning in and out. So that would be a stupid thing to say. We'll have to edit that out.
Well, they
or
can pause us, I guess.
Yeah, whatever.
Pause
So we
us,
talk.
come back. But Mike, by the way, that advice is when it comes to Social Security planning, most investors don't realize the importance of that. Huge percentage of people's income in retirement.
Huge.
Just you get one chance to make the right decision, make it.
No doubt.
Yep.
No doubt. So we talked. So we're going to talk a little about politics here. And I got to start with this, Mike. This isn't really politics or money, but it's just ridiculousness. I mean, there was I'm watching this. I'm watching stuff online, YouTube and Twitter and whatnot, and I just keep thinking to myself, how can stuff get any more ridiculous, right? So I saw a video of these, trans women in some place in Seattle, or outside of a small town in Washington, or maybe it was Portland, demanding certain things and whatnot. And, it just, I thought to myself, okay, well, this is a little bit bizarre. Like there's, for the 4 people in town, right? But anyway, so then I'm watching this thing in Florida, and this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. So this Art Basel, I'm not even pronouncing that probably right. It's an art show down in Miami, Florida, right? So the guy, one of the artists, a French artist, right, tapes a banana to the wall. Okay, this is considered art, Mike. Tapes a banana to the wall. It gets better. The banana is valued at $125,000.
How could that be?
Somebody bought the banana taped to
now,
the
did
wall.
he do it as a spoof or was he serious?
No, he's dead serious. And I guess that part of it, what the artists say, the elitists say, is that it's really about the certificate of authenticity that really makes the value of the piece and blah,
How
blah, 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 blah.
ridiculous is that?
But it gets
Remember
better.
That lady,
No,
it
it
was
gets
a few
better.
years ago. There was a lady who put her 5-year-old's piece of art in a show just to prove it. She won. She won the whole show.
This gets even better, right? So a performance artist from New York City strolls by the exhibit, sees said banana taped to said wall, and decides to untape the banana and eat it. Right? Which causes all kinds of commotion. Now, people are videotaping
because you
this,
could never find another banana and
right?
tape it back up.
Well,
there.
that's what they say. So
And
don't
not
worry.
that banana.
Don't panic, they said. It's not about the banana. The banana obviously needs to be replaced as needed. It's about, again, the certificate of So it gets even better than that, though, if you can believe it, Mike. It gets better yet, okay? So after they clear the room and they got everybody out and they fixed the banana and they got a new banana and they retaped the banana to the wall, somebody stole the banana and the tape and spray painted Epstein didn't kill himself. What do you think it was? So
Payback's a bitch.
that has now
Payback's a
gone
bitch.
viral, and the security
Now,
guards
that's
are
actually
busy
worth some
cleaning
money.
up the
Now
mess.
that's actually worth some money. I would pay for that. If they're going to re-auction that and I can get involved in that for charity, I would do that for sure.
What kind
That's
of wealth do you
hilarious.
have to have, speaking of wealth, to just say, yeah, sure, I'll pay $100? I mean, come on, seriously,
Well,
folks?
it just shows you, though,
why
that
not
some of these
do
elitists-
something good with it, though. Give it to
Yeah.
Children's Hospital, right? Give
I
it to
agree. I agree.
a homeless shelter.
and look at-
help out our veterans. I mean, do something.
There's some pieces of art that are actually good pieces of art.
Yeah,
but
that wasn't
I
one
got to
of them.
tell you, I don't understand how they rate this stuff, how they look at it. I mean, I'm into classic cars, right? And everybody's got their different taste when it comes to classic cars and all that stuff. But I mean, if you look at like an old Chevelle or an old Corvette or something like that, I mean, there's some substance there.
Yeah.
Some of these paintings are the most ridiculous things I've ever seen in my life. A 2-year-old could do them, and they go up on an auction block for $100,000. Look at how this color blends into this. It's ridiculous.
This was a banana duct taped to the wall,
stupid.
Mike.
Beyond dumb.
It wasn't
Beyond
even. It wasn't
dumb.
even a. At least with
Dumb,
the 5-year-old.
dumb.
At least with the 5-year-old, like there's some artistic ability.
Yeah.
The finger
there's
painting, whatever.
It just
So stupid.
for whatever reason, there's this elitist group that
Yeah,
think
yeah.
like they can get into this little niche and they can trade paintings and they act like they know what they're doing. They have no clue. There was a show on this, and please. I don't know why I know this, but the Kardashians did this. They did a spoof on their mom. And they said that this guy was like the greatest artist, and he was like never did any art before, and he painted all this stuff. And they said they had bought her this piece of art for whatever it was, $20,000, and she was like, "Oh my God, it's the greatest thing I've ever seen." And then at the end, they're like, "No, we actually did it in our in the garage. We just started throwing paint at the wall, and this is what happened."
I love the
Total
disclosure.
joke.
Not that I
Total
don't ask
joke.
me how I know, but I was watching the Kardashians.
My kids had it on. I happened to be in the room.
Oh, man. So this happened this week, Mike. I'm not sure if you heard this or not, but Elizabeth Warren, after all of the DNA tests and everything else and all the hoopla about the fact that she's a 1,024th American Indian, she finally admitted this week in a bowling alley of all places that, no, she is not a woman of color. So here's Elizabeth Warren finally coming clean.
But even so, I shouldn't have done it. I am not a person of color. I am not a citizen of a tribe. And I have apologized for confusion I've caused on tribal citizenship, tribal sovereignty, and for any harm that I've caused.
The problem,
no problem.
however,
Hey,
is
no
that
problem, Elizabeth. Let me tell you something. No problem. You're a freaking Democrat. There's no problem at all, right? And by the way, everybody with a brain in their head knew. I mean, you're milky white.
the fact that she's still in the race. So
I'm
that
not a
she's
person of
been-
color. No kidding.
The
Wow,
fact
I'm
that she's
shocked.
not been forced to resign, though, is amazing,
What
right?
a joke.
Joe Biden 30
any
years
Republican would have been thrown out of the race in 20
ago,
seconds.
and Democrats
would have
20 years
slammed
ago.
him.
30 years ago, Joe Biden plagiarized a speech. They hounded him for it, and he ended up resigning from the race to run for president in 1988. Today, you could absolutely fake your heritage and take advantage of it. Look, it's one thing if Elizabeth Warren just said, "Listen, I think I'm part Native American. That's what I always thought." It's a whole other thing to put that down for minority status to get qualified for job opportunities and admission to college.
Yeah,
right?
to take advantage of it. I mean, I would think that's fraud, right? I mean,
I would think.
It seems.
But
it
today,
seems to
again,
me.
today's
By
day
the
and
way,
age,
it
you can do
seems
whatever
to
you
me
want.
that she's done more to be quote impeached than actual Donald Trump has done.
Oh, for
sure.
Yeah,
right?
no doubt.
She actually lied. Trump didn't lie.
Yep. You have folks in this country now that are painting themselves black, that are Democrats, that are, what's his name? Sean, is it Sean White? I think the guy's name is. He's part of like the NCAA. He's a white guy.
Yeah.
What about Rachel Dolezal? Remember her?
Yeah.
Remember her? She was
Oh,
on
yeah.
board of she was from a Swedish family. She couldn't
Yeah.
be any whiter, but she was okay going through
right.
tanning and curling her hair and faking that she was an African American so that she
Right.
could be. But she identified as that now. So
I'm
in
so
today's
sick
day
of
and
it.
age in this
Glenn,
country, you can identify as anything, and a banana
I am
is art.
so sick of it. We've had a black president, right? Nobody cares. I should say nobody, right? But look at you want to get ahead, not on the color of your skin, but on your education, on your skill set. Nobody cares anymore. I'm so sick and tired of black and white and blah, 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 blah. Go get an education. Martin Luther King said it best. You can beat somebody with your brain. And that's the absolute right way to do it. And you can be anything you want to be. Barack Obama, he proved one thing, right? It doesn't matter the color of your skin. You can be the president of the United States of America now. You can be the president. By the way,
But there's
black people, white people, they all different colors, run all different governments all over this country. I'm so sick and tired of the race card being pulled out in any of these elections. It's just ridiculous.
But you can
and I
fake
think,
it
by
now.
the way, President Trump has actually hired more black people than Obama did. But CNN will pick that story up anytime now.
But the thing is, though, there's no retribution for the.
No.
Look, if you're a Democrat, if you're a Virginia
you say whatever
Democrat,
you
you're a
want.
Virginia governor, you can be caught in blackface. If you're
Yeah.
Justin Trudeau,
That's
you
right.
can be caught in blackface, right?
That's right.
That's no
you
problem.
Cannot, you can ask Al Sharpton. You cannot pay the IRS, right? Ask Joe Biden. You
Yep.
can say it's cool to have little kids sitting on your lap.
Yep, no problem.
And rubbing your hair legs.
Yes, no
That's
problem.
just fine.
No problem.
Right? That's just fine.
Yeah, Sean
Right?
King was his name. I thought
Yeah.
Sean was. Sean King was the guy. He's still out there. He's still.
Of course he is.
Pretending to be black. But
course he is.
these folks that do that, they take like Elizabeth Warren. You're taking opportunity. The reason these programs exist, so that folks like American
Actual
Indians can
colored
take,
people could use them. Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
so
Indians
they
could
can,
use them?
that's the whole idea, is to give them the opportunities that they might not otherwise get. And when somebody like Elizabeth Warren fakes Indian status and uses that to her advantage, that took the opportunity away from somebody else. In any other equal world or 30 years ago in this country when things were still somewhat balanced, she is absolutely done as a candidate. She is drummed out of the race for lying about her heritage. Joe Biden is drummed out of the race for corruption with his son, right?
I running, if we ran for dog catcher as a Republican, we'd be out of the race.
Absolutely, you'd be out of the race. And rightfully so, right? But if you're a Democrat, you can get away with all this stuff. Biden did an interview, I think it was this week, with, I guess it's Axiom. I don't know who this exactly this, or Axios, I guess. But this guy asked him some pretty good questions, and it was he just he gets angry. You can tell, like, there's no corruption here, no corruption.
Yeah.
I didn't even know he was.
Well, that's
on
how you
the
know
oil
he
and
did
gas
something
company.
wrong, right? That's how you know he did something wrong. If he didn't do anything wrong, you just say, hey, look, here's the facts. Let me spell them out for you. I didn't do anything wrong. I'll answer any questions you have. Done. And you know what? If he took it head on like a man, and he actually was able to defend what he did with his son and everything, then it'd be fine. But we all know that angry Joe did something wrong, and that's why he's getting angry about it, right? How dare you? Just like Hillary did with Matt Lauer, right? It's exactly the same. How dare you, mainstream media, call me out and put me in a bad light? Look at him, look at him, look at him. The same thing Hillary did. By the way, just keep track of all these people who are asking Joe tough questions, because we got to sort of make sure they still are around 6 to 12 months from now.
Yeah, well, let's see. Matt Lauer's not, right? He got railroaded out of the industry.
You know what? That's the one thing I regret, because and we should go back, because I'm sure we did call it. But the minute she left that studio and was pissed off at him and said, "Damn it, how could you do this to me?" We should have known that was the end of his career. We should have called it. We should have sealed it up in an envelope, done some kind of a YouTube video, and said, "I give it 6 to 12 months before there's so much dirt on this guy. He's totally wiped out of the industry," right? Because what's amazing is the stuff that her husband did, right? 26 or 27 times on a plane with Epstein, going to a private island,
Accused
all
of
the
rape
stuff they did.
multiple times.
He's still out collecting $100,000 fees, but Matt Lauer. I'm not saying, I'm not defending what Matt did, but Matt is totally out of the industry, right? Can't earn a buck if his life depended on it anymore. And I would argue that it's really not even close to what Bill has been accused of. Bill's been accused of rape, right? Again, not defending Lauer. But it just shows you the corruption in the swamp that needs to be cleaned out in Washington. It's disgusting.
Well, and Trump said that this week. He tweeted out. He said, "This is what I'm doing. I am draining the swamp." The IG report came out this week.
Yeah,
and of
William
course,
Barr, by the way.
It wasn't very aggressive on either side, but the Democrats are calling it a win. Comey's out saying, "See, there was no political bias." Yeah, but Jimmy, here's a problem, Jimmy.
You are the political bias.
But here's the problem, Jimmy. It basically says that the FBI was completely inept. It may not say that there was a concerted effort for a coup, which I think there really was, but what it does say is that they absolutely failed multiple times at every single level to corroborate the Steele dossier. They didn't ask Steele where he got the information from. They didn't try to corroborate it. In fact,
and I would say that's misleading, right?
It's totally misleading.
That is misleading.
Look, we know
the FBI officials knowingly misled the public. They knowingly misled.
Well, what the IG report says is, well, they just was sloppy. It was here's the thing. They actually there's evidence that they released the dossier to the media and then use the media report as the corroborating evidence to that Steele dossier. Now, that doesn't show intent. I don't know what does, but forget about the intent for a second. Comey's out there spiking the football saying, "See, I told you." What the report really says is that the FBI was totally incompetent, that they got fooled by not only Christopher Steele, but they got fooled by Hillary Clinton, that Hillary Clinton used them as a puppet for her own political purposes, and Jimmy Comey fell for it. Now, you can either take that narrative, which is really what the IG report says, or you could take it a step further and say nobody could possibly be that stupid. No. It's like the whole Epstein thing. Oh, well, I guess there was an unbelievable series of coincidences. No, there's not. That doesn't happen.
They're trying to bring him up on abuse of power, right? That's a pretty broad notion of bribery is what they're trying to bring him up on, right? They're trying to bring him up on obstruction of justice.
Congress.
But the Democrats withheld There's no witnesses. There's no documents. I mean, what a joke, right?
Let's keep in mind with the Clinton impeachment that there was an independent counsel in Kenneth Starr. It was months and months and months of an investigation. That was an independent investigator that did that.
Well,
like the Mueller report.
Nixon and Clinton both had accepted crimes. There's no crime here. There's no
crime here. In fact, the crime. So they're bringing up on two charges. One is abuse of power, and the other is obstruction of Congress, not necessarily obstruction of justice, but obstruction of Congress, which is a different thing. But let's talk about the abuse of power. What they're saying is you use your power of position as a president for your own political gain by withholding military aid until they, reopen the investigation. And here's the thing: they did not reopen the investigation, and they received the military aid. So nothing.
And by the way,
back.
Joey was a civilian at the time. He was not a declared candidate.
Right, he was not declared. But even if he was a declared candidate, the fact of the matter is that he didn't get anything in return. What the claim is that he abused his power for his own personal gain. There was no personal gain here. And it's clear from the transcript that he wasn't doing it for his own personal gain.
Yeah.
He was doing it on behalf of the country to root out corruption.
Yeah.
When you have Biden in his own words saying, I said, if you don't fire that prosecutor, I'm not giving you the $1 billion. And nobody is even looking at it. This is bizarro world.
I actually even think the head of the FBI could figure that one out. They could put two and two together that Joe and his son were corrupt. Joe was helping his son, right, on Air Force Two, getting the deals, totally incompetent. I mean, I actually think the FBI could put that together and say, geez, I think there was something really smells fishy there.
Yep. And I can tell you what, the markets keep hitting new highs because Trump's every day of the impeachment goes worse and worse for Democrats. Trump's approval rating continues to rise. Yeah, and as his approval rating rises, as does the stock market as they pre-anticipate his re-election and walking back in
Tuesday,
office.
there was an article on CNBC.com. It was about investors are terrified of something a year from now, and they're placing bets to hedge themselves. Well, what would that year from now be? Well, of course, it's the election, right? Yep. And now, why is this a positive? It's a positive because investors always get it wrong.
Right.
Always. Retail investors always get it wrong.
Well, they're just hedging, right?
So when they're hedging, though, and they're placing bets saying, oh, my gosh, what if Elizabeth Warren wins? What if a Bernie Sanders wins? They're hedging bets against that. I would say that that's a great, very bullish sign for the economy, very bullish sign for the stock market, and a very, very bullish sign for Donald Trump because retail investors are always wrong, right? How many retail investors bet that Clinton was going to win, right?
Yep. 96%. I think I got a graphic on my thing. It was 98%. Where is it? I got it right here. I just saw it recently.
Yeah. Yep, and they were wrong every single time. And we've not to sound like a broken record, but we've complimented Maria Bartiromo a few times by saying, Maria that night was awesome. She's like, I can't figure it out. The Dow futures are down 800 points. Yep. He wants less regulations, lower taxes, and a pro-growth economy. I think I'm going to buy into this thing in the morning. And sure enough, was she right because those futures turned? It was a few of the quote elitists that were selling at midnight, and by 9:30 in the morning, everybody with a brain in their head said, "Wait a minute, this is actually going to be a good thing for the economy."
The New York Times tweeted out on October 20th, our presidential forecast updated, chance of winning, Hillary 92%. Donald Trump 8%, right? And now these are the same folks that come out with these polls that say, "Well, it looks like Elizabeth." Look at
and they're still listening to him though. That's my favorite. And you know what's scary is Republicans listening to this.
I know.
I have Republican friends that go, "Oh, the polls don't look that good." I'm like, "What? Like, are you seriously bothering? Are you? These are the same people. Actually, these are the same people as you just pointed out that were at 92, 94, 96%. Now they're at what, like 60-40?
Right.
Well, that means does he win California and New York now too?
Yes, possibly. I'm telling you, he wins 40-plus states. He doesn't win California and New York and places like that, but he wins Pennsylvania, he wins Wisconsin, he wins Minnesota, he wins Michigan, he wins
and I don't
Ohio,
care what
he wins
candidate
Florida.
they put up.
Doesn't
Bring Hillary back if you want. Bring
Nobody
Michelle
likes
Bell back. Fly her. I'm sure they're on vacation in Hawaii with armed guards there. I'm sure.
Yes.
Bring her back. It won't matter. No, nobody likes de Blasio. It's
no, de Blasio's gone. He's already out. De Blasio's already dropped out.
No,
nobody likes Mini Mike. You're thinking Bloomberg. Nobody likes Mini Mike.
I don't know why. I you know what? And it's a New York City thing. I pull them together, right? They just have that unlikability, both of them together, right?
They really do.
Their faces look miserable. They look like miserable old men, right? They're unhappy with everything, and both of them want to tell everybody what to do.
Exactly. Yeah. Mini Mike is is a billionaire.
Mike.
Mini Mike is what Trump has labeled him. Is a billionaire from his news organization, Bloomberg News, of course, and his Quotron system.
Yeah.
On the other hand, De Blasio is a multimillionaire by basically fleecing the taxpayers and
Yeah,
giving his wife
that's good.
$1 billion of taxpayer money to run
need to-
a charity type of group that's a complete total failure.
I'll tell you what we need to do, Glenn. At some point, when our life settles down a little bit, we need to come up with an investment book based on Democrats.
Yeah. Oh, man.
How they became wealthy.
Yeah.
We'll
Actually,
donate
that's a
all the
great
money to
book.
a charity, right?
That's a
but
great idea.
how they became wealthy, and if you really want to build wealth, this is the strategy to do it and expose these scumbags.
Yep.
You know,
Run as a
chapter
Democrat.
1, right?
Yep.
Chapter 1,
Land deals in
the
Vegas.
Clinton Foundation, right? Land deals in Vegas. Chapter 2, Harry Reid.
Harry
right?
Reid's guide to
Yeah,
land deals
yeah.
in Vegas. Yeah.
Chapter
perfect.
3. We'll just build it up. Nancy Pelosi, probably the greatest investor of all time, right?
How about
Nancy
Maxine
Pelosi.
Waters? How about
Yeah.
getting money from the? There's actually fundraising letters
Yeah,
that
from
go
the
out.
banking sector.
You can
yeah,
see
the
fundraising
collapse.
letters that go out and say, if you don't support my campaign, I will pass this legislation
Yeah.
that hurts you. Like,
Yeah.
how do you get away with this stuff?
Tell
In
me
writing,
that
they
wouldn't
put
be a
out
New York
there.
Times bestseller.
Oh,
Tell me
I
it
love
wouldn't be
it.
a New York Times. How to
Absolutely.
build wealth as a Democrat,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
And the easy
you know,
stuff,
And then you
1,
have
2,
a
3.
chapter on making sure, you got the playbook down with
Yep.
roads and bridges
Yep.
and
Yep.
supporting the poor.
Yep, global
and
warming.
the environment. Don't forget about
Yeah,
the
you
environment.
gotta have the global
Fly
warming.
on a private jet.
Absolutely.
Get off the plane, hop on a big SUV, go
Yep.
back to your house where there's a nice Audi, one of
Yep.
3 or 4, or in
Ride a bike the
Clinton's
last
case,
100
12
feet.
houses. Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right.
Quick, get the bike out. Get the bike out. Spray, mist him with the mist. Make him look like
or
he's
in
sweating. He's,
Hillary's case, try to walk. Without tripping.
Just try to walk 100 feet on your own without, two
Hillary,
giant
you think
people on
you-
either
do you
side of you
think
holding
you can
you
make
up.
it from the bulletproof SUV to the front door without
Oh,
any
man.
help?
Yeah,
I
if
think
you
I
get
can
down
do
in
it.
your mood, by the way, go back and rewatch that video of them just throwing her into the back of the SUV with her
Yeah.
feet just dragging behind her. It makes
Yeah.
me smile every time. The other thing that makes me smile a lot is the video of that person screaming at the sky. And I don't know what's going to happen when Trump walks in next year, but I'm telling you, we should probably have some compassion and start setting up counseling centers now.
We have to
because
go all
these
out.
Folks,
We have to go all out. We've got to make sure we've got an all-out team in place to videotape some of the reactions.
Oh, yes.
Speaking of making you feel good, every once in a while when I'm at the gym and I try to run on a treadmill and it's the most boring thing in the world, I'll play some of the videos from that night and just the
Makes you
disgust
smile.
on some of these liberals' faces, like they just can't believe it.
Yep,
just
makes you smile.
Like they
Well, that's-
lost their dog.
That's where Elizabeth Warren comes in, right? Hillary Clinton was not a likable candidate. She did not connect with the voters. The only reason she got as far as she did was just the onslaught of the media just bashing Trump and foisting her up until Matt Lauer, burst that bubble. But nobody likes Elizabeth Warren either. I mean, she doesn't.
No.
I'm gonna
No.
get me
Clinton,
a beer.
by the way, she was the best candidate they've ever had. I really
Oh,
believe
yeah.
that. I mean, really, truly. If you're going to check the list of who the Democrats need as a candidate and want as a candidate, right? Let's
Yep.
see. Female, checked, right? Money in the bank, checked,
Yep.
right? A husband who was really liked by the Democrat Party, right?
Yep.
The stock market did well
Name
under him.
recognition.
Nothing to do with him, but he took the credit for it. He said it's the economy stupid and
Yep.
check, right?
Yep.
So all the boxes are checking, right? And yet she got her ass kicked.
Yeah, she did.
She got her
lost
butt
in an
handed to her,
electoral
man.
landslide. She's still
Right.
out there thinking she won. I won the
Right.
majority of voters. I
Yeah.
won the. No, you didn't. I mean,
No.
you got places like California that 120% of the vote came out.
Yeah.
We know that they're ballot harvesting. We know that's not legal in some of these places, so they can
Right.
stop by and they can collect all your ballots.
Fortunately,
and just
the
fill them out for you.
Electoral
It's
College and our founders were smart enough to understand that may happen.
Yes,
and
exactly.
when where you look at where it's happening in California, it's
Yep.
happening in the city of Philadelphia, right? It's happening in New York City, but
Yep.
for the most part, yeah, okay. The
Goodness.
Democrats are going to get those two anyways. Doesn't matter.
But Elizabeth Warren gets the nomination. Nobody likes Elizabeth Warren. Nobody likes Mini Mike, right? So he's not going anywhere. People like Joe Biden, but he is the gaffe master. I just don't
I
see
don't
how
understand
he can,
though. I don't understand
He's
how
really
they,
lost
how they
a
like
step.
him.
He just looks like he's aged.
He's so darn.
Well, you like
creepy.
him like an old
Who
grandpa.
like-
I mean, that's what you
yeah,
know what I mean. Like
I guess.
he's just the
Yeah.
the guy who
Yeah, you could see having a beer with him.
he
You
means
could. I get
well,
that. I get that.
But
Yeah.
I just Lunchbox Joe. I just don't think that he looks just in the primary like he's been through 9 rounds of a 12-round fight.
Yeah.
I don't
well, now
see
his
how
family's
he survives
involved.
a stand.
Now he knows how. Now he knows how the Republicans feels. Now his family's getting brought into the mix.
Oh, yeah.
And, now you know how the Trump family feels, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although their kids are all stand up, Class A type people,
Yep.
unlike
business people,
unlike
successful in their
Hunter,
own right.
who's still not admitting to fathering
Yeah.
a child and
Yep.
neglecting this child over the last bunch of years.
That's right.
And,
Fighting
with
the child support.
with a high character
Fighting the child
stripper.
support, right?
Yeah.
He slept with a stripper and got
Yeah.
her pregnant while he was sleeping with his brother's widow.
Yeah, stand-up guy.
I mean,
stand-up dude.
and now
stand-up dude,
he's
making
not
$80,000 a
supporting the
month in an
child.
industry he had no clue about.
And now he's got
stand-up
no
guy.
money, he says. He
Yeah.
got paid millions and millions of dollars.
How do you not have any
Millions of
money?
dollars. And goes, I don't
First
have
of
any
all-
money. I can't
First
pay
of all,
child
if you're
support.
Hunter
What a
Biden, what do you
dirtbag.
pay for? You don't pay for anything.
What
you
a
know damn
dirtbag.
well you walk into a
Well,
restaurant.
drugs. You pay for drugs. You got to pay
Yeah,
for drugs.
you pay for
Don't forget
drugs.
that.
That's
Yeah,
right.
You gotta have
Well,
it.
yeah, that's clearly what it is, right?
Oh,
I mean,
no
come
doubt.
on.
No
So
doubt.
he's
No
got
doubt.
no money, and he's managing a hedge fund, and they're giving him $1 billion.
Right. It's unreal.
I
Really
got to
is.
tell you, we've been in some business deals. They look at your books, folks.
Yes.
They look at your books. When you're trying to raise capital, they look at your books. They look at your track record. They look at everything, unless you're a Democrat. You know why? Because they wanted his influence, 100%. I hope President Trump and the Republican Party finally, not Trump, but the Republican Party, find a backbone and ram this stuff right back to the you know where, because that's exactly what the Democrats need.
Well, if this
to
thing
drain
goes-
the swamp, that's the swamp. It is dirty, it is filthy, it is disgusting, and it is deep.
If this goes to a vote in the House, which it may go to a vote this week, there's a high probability that the vote actually fails. I mean, you got to give credit to Nancy Pelosi for absolutely keeping the Democrats in line. The Republicans never vote in lockstep like this, but there
Yeah.
must be some very substantial threats or some very substantial promises of
Sure.
our money to their districts, because there's a lot of Democrats that are running that are in Trump-won districts, and in a presidential election year is when the Democrats in those House seats, in those districts, are going to be really, really vulnerable, because there's going to be a high turnout for the presidential election. So I would not be surprised if enough of the Democrats peel off and say, Nancy, I'm not falling on my sword for you.
Yep.
And if they do, they're not going to get reelected, and we take back the House anyways. If it does go to the Senate, if they do pass an impeachment resolution and they do actually impeach him in the House, and it does go to the Senate, and they have a full trial, I know that Lindsey Graham has said, well, I'm not calling Adam Schiff. Hey, it doesn't mean that President Trump can't call Adam Schiff.
Yeah,
if they're
that's
going
right.
to actually do a trial, then the Trump team and his legal team should have the ability to call whatever witnesses he chooses to call.
Right.
And I don't think that Lindsey Graham can say, no, you're not going to call Adam Schiff. I think that's the first person that
No, I
President Trump probably
absolutely think
calls,
that's-
because he goes right after him like he
And
should.
that starts his presidential election campaign off
Oh,
big
yeah.
time. right?
Absolutely.
That is the platform.
Oh.
Let me interview folks like Adam Schiff and show you how corrupt it is
No
and
doubt.
why you need me here. Done.
Yeah, it's a
Game
layup.
over, mic drop.
Yep,
right?
it's a layup, no doubt. So
Yeah.
that's going to do it for us, folks. Thanks again for listening, and we do appreciate it. If you need us again throughout the week, we do manage money for a living. You can go to our website at thefinancialguys.com to find out all the different things that we do, the podcast, the YouTube channel, the Twitter, the Facebook, the Instagram, and much more. So go to our website again, thefinancialguys.com. If you'd like to just call our office, use us as a resource if you think like us. We're happy to answer any financial questions you have. You can talk to one of well over a dozen, almost 20 different investment professionals just in our Buffalo office, over 80 investment professionals nationwide. And you can give us a call at the office at 1-833-FIN-GUYS. That's 833-FIN-GUYS. Or again, go to our website at thefinancialguys.com. Don't forget, if you liked what you watched, if you're watching this on YouTube, click the thumbs up button and subscribe below. We certainly do appreciate it. You can click that bell as well, and you'll get all the notifications when we release new podcasts online. If you're listening to the podcast, give us a thumbs up there and a like as well. We do certainly
Please-
appreciate it. And
please
share
give
it with
us
your
a-
friends.
Yeah, please give us a thumbs up. You know, the conservative message is getting lost.
No
It's
doubt.
getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and the liberals own the mainstream media, as we know. So this is our only voice. We're trying to do our best to kick folks like us off of Facebook, off of Twitter, and off of YouTube. So the more likes you can give us, the better off we'll all be.
Perfect. All right. So again, go to our website at thefinancialguys.com. And if you need us throughout the week, 1-833-FIN-GUYS. All right. On behalf of Mike Lomas, I'm Glenn Wiggle. We're the Financial Guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And we'll see you on Saturday on our radio shows. We'll talk to you next week here on the podcast. Thanks again.